Scientists believe that 40% of those with depression can trace it to a genetic link. Environmental and other factors make up the other 60%. So let's get a better sight on this 60%, because dealing with mini traumas has a huge impact on your happiness. Mini traumas are stored in your body and mind, and both don't just forget. Unconsciously, it undermines your emotional well-being, which is you feeling good. You can avoid depression when you are aware of the signs you get from your environment. In this video, I share 7 emotional signs of mini traumas, and at the end of this video, I also tell you how you can support yourself in processing them. Hi, I am Monique Tonen, the Happy Guru for you. You have no choice but to discover your own path to happiness when you step into my field. I facilitate to flip your unique happiness seeds into a business lifestyle to ban mediocrity forever. If you're new here, welcome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you see value in this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. It really makes a huge difference. All the links I mentioned in this video are in the description of the video below. Now, let's dive in. When you hear the word trauma, you probably think of a violent event such as abuse or a sudden death or of a loved one or a terrible accident. But as a human being, you can also experience more subtle traumas, as I call it, mini traumas. With one such experience, you can often seem effortlessly to deal with. But when mini traumas pile up, they can seriously undermine your emotional well-being. And in the end, it is you who feels upset and doesn't feel good anymore. Even worse, you start to feel depressed. Because every emotional trauma is stored in your body and has a physical and mental effect. Responses and symptoms to a traumatic event, even if they are mini, and it varies differently among people, but there are some basic common symptoms for your recognition. Like emotional signs, which include sadness, anger, denial, shame, fear, and those emotions can lead to emotional outbursts, difficulty in relationships, insomnia, nightmares, and this can cause physical symptoms like headaches, nausea, dizziness, stomach problems, changes in appetite, inconsistent sleep patterns. A mini trauma in itself seems harmless, and it's tempting to hardly dwell on this one experience. You quickly brush off your feelings, or you tell yourself you have no reason to be sad or angry. I am here to warn you about the danger of such a careless approach, because this ensures that all your mini traumas together starts to form a piece of clay that is getting bigger and grows into a more massive piece that damages your self-esteem and your relationships with others. I found 7 emotional examples of mini traumas that I came across in my own journey, especially if they start to pile up, which can have an amazing impact on your well-being in a good way, and when you act and address these mini traumas in an early stage. These are the ones I experienced, and as I mentioned before, I'm going to reveal how to heal your mini traumas too at the end. But first, I'm going to help you to recognize the mini traumas to avoid depression. So stay tuned until the end. Number one, small stabbers. And by small stabbers, I mean minor insults, vigorous mockery, personal attacks, and even ambiguous compliments. If you often experience these kinds of small stabbers, you are always prepared for the next attack. You then build a hyper-alert protective layer around yourself. And in the beginning, maybe only in the presence of the stabbers. But in the long run, the wall around you can become so solid that very little can get through. Not even the good and the positive feelings. Number two, no closure. This is a big one, and it can be traumatizing. When a friend, a family member, or a partner cuts off contact with you out of the blue, especially when they give no reason for their disappearance, or they want a divorce out of the blue, or they don't contact you anymore. There is no verbal closure from their side. The only thing you experience in their behavior is going out of contact. You start to doubt the whole relationship, and your experience of this relationship changes. Did I imagine everything? I thought we were on the same page. Was I completely wrong? If this happens to you once, it's more than painful. Although closure is in your hands, you decide how to close the situation for yourself. Yet, if it often happens to you, it can cause you to keep the door to your complete trust a little closer with every new contact. Number three, get someone to move. Some people are deeply dissatisfied with where they are, who they are, what their life looks like, the environment they're in. They experience most of the time a hopeless situation, but refuse to change anything in their lives. On the other hand, someone can also reject all forms of growth and movement out of complacency. This behavior, getting someone to move, can create a mini trauma for the person close to such a person, who tries again and again to stimulate the other person, whose own growth is also stagnating. Because to get someone else who is stuck to move, this will cost you so much energy. It's like pulling on a dead horse. Number four, the need for people pleasing. This need for people pleasing comes from a constant feeling that you are not enough or you have to change. This can leave deep marks in the long run, especially if this feeling comes from outside. For example, the environment you are in or the people you have around you. Always being criticized while you don't hear the good parts or too less. This is draining your good vibe and energy. In addition, it can trigger less pleasant traits, such as being chronically defensive and bitter. But this mini trauma is perhaps the most damaging because, more importantly, you also lose sight of your own inner compass. If you always have to want to arm yourself against the expectations of others, acknowledge your need for people pleasing. It's the first step, and it's okay to feel not okay when you want to change that. Number five, ignore the shadow side. Pretending nothing and no one has dark sides. Wanting to keep the peace at all costs. Constantly only wanting to see the positive in everything. It's not only damaging to yourself and others. You then deny elements of persons and experiences that belong to it and ask for acceptance. And what is suppressed is going to scream for attention, because depression is suppressing emotion. Suppressing is the light side, and the shadow is ignoring the dark side. So rather work through negativity in a healthy way, and at the same time continue and to appreciate the positive just as much, but don't be blindsided for the shadow side. Number 6, fusing too much. Sometimes you get completely absorbed with someone in the early stage of a friendship or a romantic relationship, or anyone you admire. You are so fond of the other person, and for a moment you see nothing but your similarities and the good things together. Here and there you adapt to each other to be able to float along enough to stay in that intimate bubble. But danger lurks, especially if you find yourself constantly looking for these kinds of stimulating but unsustainable connections. You become so entangled with others that you lose sight of your own identity. In addition, your trust in others can weaken because you always only have eyes for your new partner, friend, or admirer. Unconditional love is two streams that come together without losing their identity. And that brings me to number 7, admiration. Finally, it's important to stay alert when you tend to surrender completely to teachers, to institutions, or anyone you admire too much. This often happens to extremely determined people who take massive action to become an expert at something, and therefore willing to blindly rely on individuals, institutions that can bring them closer to their goal. Over time, this attitude can become harmful, as your autonomy is constantly undermined and not stable. Moreover, you probably prefer to only surround yourself with like-minded people and your admirer. And this way, you run the risk of losing people who keep your vision nuanced by sometimes, with emphasis on sometimes, challenging it. Yet, it is your life, your rules. Let those people you admire inspire you to make that leap, to take steps you would never take without them. So, we talked about small steppers, killers who break your mood constantly. No closure for any particular reason. Get someone to move who feels deeply satisfied. The need for people pleasing. Not being accepted for who you truly are. Ignore the shadow side. Yet without shadow, no light. It keeps your feelings alive. Fusing too much. This is unhealthy and unstable in the long run. Admiration. Blindly surrender to institutes or persons. Instead, let them inspire you to be brave to expand your life. Maybe you get more ideas around traumas. What do you experience as a mini trauma? Share them in the comments below so other people can recognize them too. Now, how to heal your mini traumas and avoid depression. The first step towards healing mini traumas is to recognize negative feelings, especially when you tend to see them as misplaced or exaggerated. Through self-examination, counseling, or conversation with a close friend, you can safely delve into your past and examine your entrenched patterns. This also makes you more aware of mini traumas that occur in the present. This process takes time and can be quite challenging. I therefore recommend you that you regularly, actively ground your body in your daily life. For example, through breathing exercises, dance, a body scan, meditation. I have recorded 3 effective calming breathing exercises for those who want to start grounding today. This way, you not only calm your nervous system as soon as you feel upset by a mini trauma, but you also learn to better recognize physical and emotional reactions in general. This breathing exercise helps to calm down your emotionally immediately. Check my free direct calming breathing exercise to jumpstart your healing today. Help me to spread happiness and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe and hit that notification bell if you loved it. To continue this journey to all people in the world to find their happiness, to blossom a happy business lifestyle. Make feeling happy your priority because nobody or nothing will give it to you.